Hey guys, Sean from Living Seeds, your seed guru. Today we are transplanting tomato seedlings into our show garden. This is the second installment in our tomato series. This is the exciting part. We get to transplant our seedlings into the soil. We are going to talk about our soil preparation. We're going to be talking about calcium and the importance of calcium in your soil. We're going to be talking about the fertilizer. We're going to be talking about the planting depth of tomato plants. And finally, we're going to cover blossom end rot and cutworms, the bane of everybody's life. Let me give you some seasonal background about this bed. Over winter, if you had visited the Living Seed show garden, you would have noticed that we had vetch growing in this bed. And what the vetch does is it keeps living roots inside the soil, and it keeps the soil biology alive because the plant is alive. What we've done now is we've terminated the vetch. So basically what the guys did, I actually have a video on vetch and how important it is and how we terminate the vetch. But what the guys did was they flipped the vetch over, they took a spade and they terminated the vetch just below the soil line. And what that does is that it leaves the roots inside the soil and it leaves the nitrogen fixing nodules in the soil as well. Hey guys, if you find any value in the videos that we are giving you, especially in this tomato series, like and subscribe. We'll make sure you get the next videos. Calcium is one of the most important things that you need to put down on your soil. We will put down about 100 grams per running meter of calcium. Literally every single time we plant a crop, we will put calcitic lime down onto the soil. And the reason for this is that the majority of soils in South Africa are calcium deficient. And calcium is one of the elements that is so important for vegetables. The next thing that we need to do is we need to put a fertilizer down. The transplant fertilizer, as you guys should know by now, is 232. This is the Talborn Organics VitaGrow 232. Also about 100 grams per running meter. It is a good average to put down onto your soil. And what 232 does is it stimulates the root growth of your seedlings. And at this time of the year, you are looking for plants that have fantastic root growth. We are now preparing to transplant our seedlings into the soil. These were watered this morning so that the outsides of the paper pot makers are nice and wet, and the soil inside here is nice and damp as well. You can see that this bed is nice and moist. I've turned the drip irrigation system on. It's been running for about 2 hours now. This soil is nice and wet, and what's going to happen is when we transplant the seedling into the soil, the moisture in the soil and the moisture in this pot maker are going to meet and allow this paper pot to disintegrate. When looking at transplanting a tomato seedling, you want to plant the tomato seedling as deep as possible. This necessitates that you take this bottom leaf off over here so that it allows us to plant this tomato seedling at this depth over here. Most people only plant the tomato seedling the depth that it actually is in the seedling container. Now, the reason why you want to do this tomato plant, as it grows inside the soil, is going to be pushing roots out all the way up the stem. The more roots that this plant has, the more food it can absorb out of the soil, the better this tomato seedling will grow. The next thing it does is that the soil is nice and cool. It keeps this plant nice and cool, especially going into the heat of spring when we can experience 35, sometimes even 40 degrees Celsius days. In this bed, we are going to be planting 5 different kinds of determinate tomatoes. This is Grandma's chocolate. If you look on the back of the seed packet, you will see this info bar over here. The info bar tells you how far apart to plant them. These plants will be planted 50 centimeters apart, and we have a cool little tool that allows us to do that. Make sure the name is right. Our drip irrigation system has emitters that are spaced 30 centimeters apart. So if we use the drippers to work out how far apart to plant the seedling, we'd be planting them 60 centimeters apart. We actually want them 50 centimeters apart. So we have a cool tool that allows us to work that out. So remember, let me do it on this side so you guys can see a little bit easier. You want it as deep as possible. So we're planting it and we've got the soil almost all the way up to the top leaves. Let's do this one again. This one's good. Plant it nice and deep. You can see the soil is black and it's moist, and that seedling is all the way inside. Let's do this last one over here. That's fine. Plant it nice and deep. Cover it up. Press the soil in nicely. And we are good to go. If you have cutworms inside your soil, you have a calcium deficiency, which means that you need to be putting down calcitic lime into your soil as soon as you put the transplants down. Now we do two things with the calcitic lime. We will put a top dressing like you saw me do now. I put a top dressing of calcitic lime. The next thing that we do is we will put a little circle of calcitic lime around each seedlings. Cutworms hate calcitic lime, and if you put the calcitic lime around the seedling, the cutworms won't cross the calcitic lime to eat your seedling. Let me show you how to do it. There we go. The second reason why you need calcium inside your soil is something called blossom end rot. This is where the bottom of the tomato turns black and it looks very unsightly. Guys, blossom end rot is not a disease. Blossom end rot is a symptom of a calcium deficiency. The plant has a high calcium requirement, especially when it's fruiting, when it's growing. And if you don't have the calcium inside the soil, you are going to have blossom end rot. I can promise you, eggshells are not going to solve your problem. You need to be putting calcium down and put calcium down properly. Guys, you have spent the last 6 to 8 weeks growing these gorgeous seedlings from Living Seed seed. Now is the time to transplant them into the ground. I want you to give those seedlings the best chance ever. Make sure your soil is properly prepared. Make sure you've put down calcitic lime. Make sure you have put down Talborn Organics Vitagrow 232. Make sure that you transplant the seedling as deep as you can, because that'll give you the shortest path to success with your fantastic tomatoes. The next video, we are going to be talking about trellising and pruning your tomato plants. This is especially important when you have indeterminate tomato plants and you want to get it right. We spoke about calcium inside the soil, putting calcium carbonate. Yes, yes, calcitic lime, calcium carbonate. We spoke about putting calcium inside the soil, and we put on 100 grams per running meter of calcium carbonate. If you have cutworms in your soil, that is an indicator that you have a calcium deficiency. So if you have calcium, if you have cutworms, that calcium does is it prevents blossom end rot. No. Transplant the seedlings at the correct depth. Guys, it's so I lost my train of thought. I wanted to go back to the recap. So let's do that again.